From an early age, I wanted my piece of the pie. Marketing is a science. You can make the best widget, but if you can't help people to understand that they need that product to solve a problem in their lives, you're not going to sell it. Pre-alignment is probably one of the most critical activities that executives must do. This is so critical, and it takes time. You want to keep it real, which is the same thing as being authentic, but you got to know the space that you're playing in. Don't look behind for too long. There's nothing back there. If you make a mistake, keep it moving, because your mind needs to be on what's ahead of you. A lot of corporations are ready to take on more Black leaders, give more people chances and opportunities, and sometimes you just need a little bit of a tweak to help you level up. It's not easy to get this kind of learning from leaders. Finding the time to mentor, coach, and sponsor is difficult, and I really get a lot of joy from that. All right, so let's talk about the elements of a marketing plan, and then a little bit about kind of excellence in marketing pitches, which are really all about kind of asking for something from leadership, right? Asking for buy-in, money, right? Approval. So a marketing plan, right? Marketing plans are living, breathing documents. Say going into the year, you want to understand, one, again, what are you trying to accomplish? What are those end results that you need to deliver, right? You want to reassess the market landscape. And this might change frequently, right? But have a picture of the market landscape as it is today, right? And you'll define that in your terms, whether it be product adoption, sales, feedback from customers. You'll paint this landscape. You'll go out there and do surveys. You'll take existing data, revenues. You'll paint this picture of what the market is today. You'll understand competitive positioning, right? So how are you positioned versus your competitors? You want to understand what customers think about competitive positioning. That's very different than when you're doing your internal positioning versus what a customer thinks about it. So make sure that when you're thinking about competitive positioning, you're thinking about it also from a functional standpoint. Does my product meet a need in a customer's eyes any different than the competitive product? Are we competing on features and how it impacts, say, the functional everyday lives of the person that's using that? You need to understand that thoroughly. Because if there's a functional element that the product's not meeting, then you got to go develop. R&D needs to know that. We need another feature develop that, and this is why our competitors winning in the marketplace. Okay, so you understand the market landscape. Again, kind of internal, external, competitive positioning, internal and external. Right? These are things. These are factors that are not going to inform. What are you not going to do? Right? What are you going to do? What product launches are planned for the year? Right? When are those going to happen? Okay? What ongoing product management and what's that continual voice that you're going to have in addition to product launches, right? That tell a story. So you map that out, right? What's happening? And then you look again at what's the end goal that we've got to achieve this year? How do I move the needle here? How do I leverage competitive positioning? Is there something that's launching that gives me this edge and a new story that I can tell, right? So when you think about your marketing plan, you've got those laid out quarter by quarter. You've got tactics for aligning your customer. You've got to align your field. If you've got a field sales team, they got to be ready. You got to align the internal organization as well. So you've got all those tactics and training and education that you've got to go do. But getting the message right to each of those particular target groups is super critical. What you tell a customer is different than what you tell the field team. It's different than you tell the internal operations team, right? So really nailing those messages. When you're listening to the competitors, you got to have checkpoints along the way in your marketing plan that allow you to listen and modify your plan, and quickly. So if you're out there on social media and your competitor hits you from the left, right? You got to be able to, pivot and change content, right? Always driving what's exclusive to your organization, what your competitive differentiators are, so that customers are hearing it in a way that appeals to them, and you're keeping that constant, right? That's that relationship that you're building over time. But your marketing plan is an active, living, breathing document. So let's pivot that and talk about, a marketing pitch, for example, right? So I talked a little bit about how to drive change. You've got to get input and understand, where stakeholders, what's important to them, right? So make sure that when you're bringing something new to the organization, that it still aligns to what's going to make people successful in their different roles, which should make the company successful. So when check for alignment, sometimes there's blue ocean ideas that you bring in that may or may not align to the company's strategy. So just be mindful of that, and you can have some discussions around, is this the right time? I got this great thing. I got tons of great things that we have not unveiled to the organization because it's just not time, right? Not time yet. Not time. The time will reveal itself. We'll work on those things, not in secret, but we'll work on them. But in time, they'll come out. So understanding timing, I guess, is how I would frame that. But when it's time to bring something forward, right, for approval, buy-in, money, whatever it may be, are you telling a great story, right? So when you're telling a story of, hey, we should do this, right? Why should we do this? Same elements really do apply. If you're talking to finance, if you're talking to R&D, if you're talking to regulatory, whoever, they want to be taken on a journey. Get to that emotional piece, right? What's happening in the marketplace? What's the problem? What's broken? Where's our opportunity? Clearly define that, right, in terms that people understand. What's unique about us right now that we have in our portfolio, if we do X, Y, and Z, that we believe will shift, or move the needle for us? How did we validate that, right? What gave us confidence that this is the right thing to do? Talk about some of the research you've done, the customer interviews. Would buying decisions be changed because of bringing this forward? Because you're bringing this forward. You bring those elements and you tell the story. Folks are going to want to make sure, how did you validate that this is absolutely true? What's happening? How'd you validate it? How do we make sure customers now are going to take advantage of this? And this is where the elements of the marketing plan really come into play. Here's what we like to do to make people aware of it, from a customer. How are we going to get our field teams trained up and excited about this, where they're driving it? And how are we going to make sure that we have enough of the product, or that the supply chain is ready to respond if this thing takes off? And then here's our cadence. Here's how we're going to do this. Here's the different channels we're going to use. And here's how we're going to measure it, right? And so what's in my mind, for me, as an operator, kind of most of my background, is what is the outcome? And how are you measuring the outcome? Marketing for marketing's sake isn't marketing, right? It's an ongoing process of understanding what's working in the marketplace. And you got to have data and results to understand that, whether that be website traffic, Twitter impressions, campaign responses. You've got to have a way to get feedback from your consumers, click-throughs, surveys. You need to know what's working in the marketplace. You also look at adoption of the actual product that you're pushing out there. Did the timing correspond to some of the marketing activities, some of the PR activities that we're driving? It's not all, you can't quantify all of it, but directionally you need to be able to signal to leadership, certainly if you're taking resources or dollars and applying it to this effort, that this is actually worthwhile, right? And just have that ongoing discussion where when you're updating on your programs and your projects, whatever that frequency is, always come back and hit those results. We're seeing movement here and there, and they will know that their investment in that initiative is making a difference. And then you're aligning, again, peers to hear the results. When we get in front of senior leadership, we all believe that this is helping drive, sales, or, kind of whatever that outcome that you predefined, what that is. So again, marketing plans are what you're going to do until the competitor kind of comes from left. You've got a new capability. It's going to give you a new spin on things, right? And that's different from making your pitch for a particular initiative or program or product. But again, in the case of making a pitch to senior leadership, you really got to tell a great story that shows you've been thorough in your analysis, you've backed it up with external thinking, and you're going to measure it at the end, and you're going to report that back on an ongoing basis.